Everyone, we're here with Brad, and Brad is going to share something very special and very personal with us. Now, Brad, could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I am a recovering addict, and now a big part of what I do today is help other recovering addicts get get the help that they need, whatever that looks like for them, but getting sober.
Okay, and what is the name of the organization you're with?
I'm with Better Addiction Care.
Better Addiction Care?
We're yes, we're an admissions line to help people all over the country get into treatment, get into detox, whether it's a state-funded facility or a private facility. No matter the situation, we try our very best to help.
Okay, and where are you all based out of?
We're based out of Deerfield Beach, Florida.
Okay, okay. Now, today, everyone, Brad is going to share a few things with us on addiction, and hopefully, someone would be greatly helped by this. So, you know what? We're going to get into it. Okay, sir. Who introduced you to the drug?
It was really, well, I'm a recovering heroin addict, okay? And primarily, just growing up around a certain group of people, it was my peers. It was kind of acceptable in my peer group in Baltimore back in the late '90s, and I gave in one day. I gave in, and I tried it. I sniffed it, and that was it. It started about a 15-year downward spiral that I'm very fortunate to have gotten out of, and to even be sitting here talking to you today.
Could you tell us about your first time? And you say your drug of choice was?
Yeah, my drug of choice was heroin.
Could you tell us about that first time?
At the time that the very first time I used heroin, I was already a full-blown alcoholic, drinking 12 to 24 beers a day and liquor as well. And the very first time it was introduced to me, I snorted it, and after that, I stopped drinking. I completely stopped drinking and put all of my efforts and my focus into getting more heroin.
Okay. What so how long did it take you to get hooked?
I would say that I was immediately hooked. Not physically dependent on it, but I wanted more. Once I did it that one time, the feeling that I had, I wanted that all the time, every time.
What did it feel like that first time?
It was almost like it's hard to really describe that, but it made everything, any stress, anything that was going on, anything that I was dealing with at the time, just disappear and not seem very important.
If someone, if you had a loved one who was around you a lot, what signs, if they knew about the drug and this particular kind of addiction, what early warning signs would this person have picked up on if they were, informed about the drug?
You mean as far as a family member, someone like that, if you're not sure if they're using yet, or if you think it may be possible?
Well, in your circle, in your, with your loved ones, what are some signs that they could have picked up on where they would have known what you
Oh,
were doing?
well, I was always asking for money.
Mm.
I was always broke, even though I was working. I always had an excuse of why I didn't have money, and then I was never there for any of my obligations. I was barely there for work. The only reason why I was at work is to produce more money, to produce more heroin. And so anything else extra that I may have done before, that was out the window. I was constantly late or just not showing up to anything, whether it's babysitting someone, babysitting a cousin, brother, being home to for whatever. I would just go AWOL. I disappeared.
But
I
you
was
would have
nowhere to
gotten
be found.
money. You would have gotten money to babysit the person, though, right? Doesn't it? You know, it just seemed like you do that to get the money.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible. But the money that you need for heroin versus the time that you're babysitting, there's it wasn't how do I say this? It wasn't profitable enough for me. And I was just using babysitting as an example.
How much does heroin cost?
Anywhere between $10 would be enough to get you high. $10.
And would you need to? How many times a day would you need to get high? Would one time a day, work for you? That $10, or would you need to get high multiple times throughout the day?
I would get high as many times as I could in a day. I would say a bare minimum. Towards the end, as my disease progressed, I was spending minimum of 100 a day.
Wow, wow. How would you compare the price of a heroin habit to the price of a marijuana habit, to where you had to smoke to get up, smoke to go to sleep, smoke before you eat? Have you ever had a addiction to marijuana, and if so, how would you compare? I know it's uncomparable, but for the sake of listeners and having more clarity on this issue, how would you equate a marijuana addiction to a heroin addiction as far as the price, if you're well off into your marijuana addiction?
Well, as far as the price, there really is no comparison. I think that when I first started out smoking, before I did anything else, and you're talking maybe $20, $30 in the course of a day, and that would be heavy smoking. And so to me, there's no, I couldn't really compare the two together, because one, you physically need it at some point once you get a dependency on it, and when you don't have it, you feel like you have the worst flu imaginable. And with the weed, you may think that you need it. You may need it to get out of bed or become psychologically dependent on it, but it's not really. It's not a physical thing. If you don't have it, you're not going to be vomiting. You're not going to, be going through withdrawals, having the chills, and all of that.
Hmm. I know I've heard people describe heroin addiction as, I don't know, some people describe, when they didn't get it, the feeling of something crawling beneath their skins, the skin, their knee, their legs got stiff to where they could barely walk. Did you have anything like that?
Everybody's symptoms when they're withdrawing, they differ from person to person, but for the most part, my symptoms were I would have very, very bad chills. If it was 80 degrees outside, I would still be cold in the sun. Vomiting, diarrhea. It was basically like you have food poisoning or like I said, the flu. Now I have met people that get the restless legs, the they get the skin crawling type of a feeling, and it's different person to person, but absolutely the restless legs, it's just it's heavily physical, but it's also psychological, because that if you take one hit or you get one bag of dope, then next thing you know, you're feeling better. You're feeling like you're on top of the world again. So it's very, very difficult.
Is there a way that you could look at someone, a total stranger? We know about the needle marks and we know about the nodding, but is there a way you can look at someone and tell that they're on heroin?
Usually, if you're indoors and you look at somebody in the eyes and their pupils are very constricted, like very, very small, that
Almost like they're
that
dead.
I wouldn't say that. I would just say that their pupils look like as if they were looking up in direct sunlight. So they're very, very small, and inside where their pupils should contract and open back up, they don't. Their eyes are just pinned. Like they don't. The pupils don't change in size whether you're outside or inside. That's why you see police when they put a flashlight up to your eye and then they move it away from your eye. They look to see if that contraction happens in the pupil. If it just stays the same way, that's one of the ways that they tell to see if you're under the influence.
Oh, okay. So if you're inebriated on alcohol, your pupils look the same.
I think that when they do it with alcohol, they're more seeing about how you can follow the light, how your coordination is with your eyes, with your eye movement. But when you're doing it with the heroin, it's a little bit different.
Now, is there anything as far as the skin? Are there any type of blotches or anything that are on the skin or?
Well, sometimes, excuse me, sometimes I guess you could, if somebody was using a lot, they may get itchy. They may start itching their face real heavily. They may even start picking at their face, like popping pimples and stuff. But since they don't really feel pain, they they dig at their face and pick a little bit too hard, and can put some red marks on their face. But really, the itching of the nose, the itching of the face in general, that happens a lot, especially when someone's not off. So you can see somebody just itching their face.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. When, let's go back a little bit. When did you know that you were addicted?
I think the morning, and I don't know, maybe about a month after I started using it every day, the first time that I didn't have the money for it, I
Hmm.
woke up and my knees, my knees ached. I just felt like I felt like I had the flu, and I wasn't quite sure yet what it was about because I didn't think that just sniffing it that I could get the same effects as somebody who, or the same withdrawal effects as somebody who injected. And I definitely found out that I was wrong. And so I got a couple dollars together and got to Baltimore City and got what I needed. And then immediately, well, I wouldn't say immediately, within 10 minutes, I felt completely fine again. And that's when I knew that I had a problem.
Hmm. What are some of the one of the worst things you did to get money for heroin, if I might ask?
I would say stealing, stealing from family, stealing from stores, stealing. That would be one of them. Um, just using people, using women,
Hmm.
just anything that I could do that would make me money. It was that was the goal, and I didn't have anybody's well-being in mind. It was about the next use.
Did you ever get caught stealing from the stores? Did you ever steal from big box stores like Walmart who have all the cameras and all the guards?
Yep, yep. I have gotten caught at Walmart before, and that excuse me. I walked out of Walmart one day with a bunch of stuff on me, and they approached me at the door, the loss prevention people, and I ended up going to jail for a little while.
Wow. What did you try to steal?
I really don't remember exactly because there was a point in time that I used to just take whatever I could from anywhere that I thought that had any value.
Yeah, a lot of people, some kind of way they do it, they steal from Walmart and they get away from it with all the cameras and all of that. And the best explanation those folks have been able to tell me is the hand is quicker than the eye. So
Yeah,
I,
that and you gotta play the part. You can't come in looking like you're using heroin, but if you come in wearing a nice shirt, nice clothes, you look like you're there to spend money. They don't look at you as heavily.
mm, wow, wow. Did you, besides stealing, did you acquire any extra skills, while you're on the drug, to, I guess get money or what have you? Did you are there, is there a skill set that, a true addict has as far as lying or whatever, hiding things? Did you develop different skill sets while you were?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would call them. I wouldn't call them skill sets. I would call them defects.
Mm.
And absolutely, absolutely, you learn to you get a lot more. It's hard to put it all into a general skill or a defect, but the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the deception, just and also how to shut off your feelings, your emotions, because when you're screwing somebody over for the money that they may be going to use to pay their rent or to go get diapers for their kid or whatever it is, you have to disassociate yourself from that. At least me, because I did start out using with morals, with feelings, with compassion towards people, and towards the end, you have to disassociate yourself from those feelings, and you do that through the drug.
When did you realize that your morals were slipping? Did any, particular event happen where you said, wow, how did I get here?
I think it was one morning when I really took notice of how miserable I was. Is years after I first started. I was around 27, and I'm 32 now, and I had girls in the house who were prostituting and giving me their money, and
You
when
were
I
a
put my
pimp.
money,
You were a pimp.
I guess you could say that, but not like it's not like you. I wasn't a pimp. I don't like to put it like that because I just happened to have the house where the girls were prostituting from, and then giving me half of their money and all of that. And I woke up one morning. Needless to say, I woke up one morning and there was three girls in the house. They were sleeping, and for the longest time, I thought, that this was what I wanted. And I woke up and I hadn't ran out of money in a long time. I had money. I had my drugs, and I hadn't been sick from heroin for a long time because I had the constant money flow. And I woke up one morning. I used my heroin. I went into the bathroom to wash my face, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking to myself, Brad, this is what it's become. This is what you've strived for this whole time, and this is it. This is you now. And I remember just feeling completely empty and just I felt terrible. I felt terrible.
So you'd say that a real, genuine, real deal drug habit sort of turns the person into a sociopath.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. When did your loved ones start to catch on?
I would say early on, within the first maybe 4 or 5 years of me using, it was just they couldn't deny it anymore. Nobody wants to ever believe that their child or their brother or their husband is using narcotics. But when the signs keep coming up and things keep coming up missing, and everything keeps pointing back to that, and that's the only logical answer. At some point, with everybody's different, but at some point, the family or the people around you that care about you, they know. They know. When they see you coming in and you haven't showered in 3 days, or you're wearing the same clothes for 3 days, or and you disappeared, there's just all numerous things that they all kind of accumulate over time until people finally say, "Hey, we know what you're doing."
Hmm. Hmm. When did someone or did anyone ever confront you? Any one of your loved ones ever confront you? I know what you're doing and you need to stop, or you're hurting me. Did that ever happen?
Not as direct as that. I never had a sit-down conversation with, let's say, my mother, who ever sat me down like that. But we've talked on the phone, and she would always say, "Well, I know something's going on." She's like, "I know there's something's going on. You're not. Things haven't been normal for a long time." And so they knew. And then I think one day I broke down and told her, and because I had there was a lot of times that I basically had enough. But at that point, when I did go to get help, it wasn't enough for me. I hadn't seen. I've tried it over the years to successfully use drugs, use alcohol, use whatever to take me outside of myself to help me cope with life. And I've tried that every which way, and until I was actually convinced that no matter what combination of drugs or alcohol or anything like that, it's always going to lead me back to possibly being homeless somewhere. And there's no way around it.
So sometimes people are able to maintain for a little while before it all falls apart. When I guess when did you first find yourself homeless? What chain of events, led you to be homeless for that first time?
I think the first time I had just burned all of my bridges with everybody. Nobody, my mother, with my father, with my stepfather, with anybody that I may have been able to have enable me, they stopped. So they stopped giving me money. They stopped helping me with the place to stay, stopped paying for hotel rooms. And it just got to the point where I literally burned all of my bridges, even friends that weren't using but had been my friend for a long time. They stopped giving me a couch to sleep on. So I was homeless. I was homeless for the first time. I think, 28, and I was homeless for over a year.
Did you have a car?
What's that?
Did you have a car?
I did earlier on, but once I hit about 27, 28, if I had a car, it would have been sold for now.
Because there are certain skills. There's a skill set for homelessness. There's a skill set. You have to be incognito. You got to be able to be somewhere and not be seen and not be heard. Could you talk a little bit about maybe, the skills you needed to be homeless successfully, if you will?
I think that the skills to be homeless are a lot less the skills, depending on what you're homeless for, because I ran into a lot of homeless people that are just down and out, who aren't necessarily, they could be a veteran or just maybe had a bad time, and not necessarily from drugs and alcohol have caused them to be homeless. But let's say for someone who's a homeless addict, I think that all of those, I guess you call them skills or defects, whatever you want to call them, those are amplified. Now, you have to really be living really bad, really grimy out there, because it's very cutthroat in the homeless community, especially in the addicted community. It is very cutthroat. It's just you gotta, if you have money, you gotta sleep with it in your pocket. You're not any possessions you have, you gotta hide them. You gotta hide them somewhere, because you may wake up and your stuff could be completely gone. People are trying to rob you. It's just very cutthroat.
So you were in like a homeless community. You weren't the lone homeless person who, got into places and got out of places without being seen. You were around other homeless people.
I did it both ways. I used to sleep in abandoned houses for a while, but then I realized I almost got in serious trouble with the law because they consider that a burglary.
Oh.
And trespassing. So I stopped doing that, and then I found myself in, I guess you could call it a homeless community. We slept in a park that was closed at nighttime. We would just kind of hop the fence on the backside of the park and get in and sleep under a pavilion. Now, the park rangers and everything, they knew that we were sleeping there, and they would always tell us to be out of there by 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So there was a group of us. At any given time, it could be 8 people, but sometimes I guess more people were homeless or people were drifting through, and there could be 20 of us.
I guess that was kind of cool of the people at the park because they could have, called the cops or something, and you all would have had to go somewhere a little less safe. Not saying the park was safe, but it's better than being around, the regular population, so wouldn't get harassed by kids, wanting to,
Oh,
young.
absolutely. It was very nice of them, and there was running water at the pavilion that we slept at. In the morning there was bathrooms that they would unlock, and so they were very very understanding about that. And then several different churches and organizations like that, especially around the holidays, would come through bringing hot plates, food, different, Thanksgiving dinner. Many different churches, they would come through with donations, clothes. On Sundays, there was a church, Trinity Church in Lantana, Florida, that would bring through a van, pick us up, take us to their church, and let us all shower, give us all a change of clothes. It was, that was big. That was really a big deal, especially for people like myself at that time who were just completely down and out. A shower was a big deal.
Hmm. Besides going to the gas stations and taking a bird bath.
Yeah, on McDonald's, yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. And you'd have to be incognito a little bit with that. Yeah. So that's wow. That's really something. I mean, who would ever think that that stuff meant so much to people who were homeless? Because we see the churches. It seems like so many churches do that, but we never know the impact of something like that. Now, outside of when the churches and different organizations would bring you food on a daily basis, how did you get food? Did you have a food stamp card, or how did you get food on a regular basis?
I had a food stamp card, but I never used my food stamp card for food. I was always selling my food stamps to drug dealers for
Wow.
drugs. I looked at that as a payday. And so the day to day to eat, I was either taking $1 or two and eating a double cheeseburger at McDonald's. That would be food for a day, or I was stealing my food.
Where did you steal it from?
Different grocery stores, maybe the dollar store. This depends on the where I was at when I got hungry, and I would go sometimes for a couple days without eating.
How could you do that? Wow, it seemed like you would get
I know,
very sick.
I couldn't even begin to explain how I did it because today I eat too much. I can't miss a meal.
Wow. Wow, that's that. I mean, that it would seem that that food stamp card would be a lifeline, but if you're selling that, that's crazy. Did you ever collect cans or anything like that, or?
No, I never really did that. I was always just either trying to middleman drugs when somebody would call me looking for something, then I would call somebody else that I knew to get it and try to make money on them that way, maybe take their money, maybe rob them, or just stealing.
So
Just
you
as
robbed
a deal.
somebody before?
Yeah, I haven't robbed somebody in the sense of with a gun or a weapon or anything like that. When I say rob somebody, I mean that they gave me their money to go get them something, and I never came back.
Wow. I mean, that's kind of not very enlightened on their part, giving their money to an addict and expecting anything different. I mean, if you bring them back the stuff, that's a plus, but we don't know how much wisdom there is in giving an addict money. As far as to bring you something back.
And a lot of that goes back to being able to be deceptive and a liar to somebody and make them convinced that you're not going anywhere. You'll be back.
Or maybe they're an addict, themselves, and they're so desperate for whatever reason they don't want to get it themselves, and out of their desperation, they do something that they know might not work.
Yeah, absolutely. Combination of things.
Why do you think heroin seems to be, no, I won't say it seems to be, it has made a big comeback and it is more popular than, well, I wouldn't say more popular than ever, but it's quite, a lot of people are using these days who weren't using before. What do you think the uptick in heroin use could be equated to, or
I think that it directly correlates with the amount of opioids that are prescribed by doctors for everything now. You have a toothache, here's some Percocets. Oh, your back hurts, here's some Percocets. You know, anything. They at the hospitals, but really at the doctors, at the pain clinics. Down here in Florida, it was really bad for a very long time about the oxycodone 30 milligrams. We call them Roxys, and 95% of the country's Roxys were getting screwed down in Florida. People were traveling down here to Florida from Kentucky, from everywhere.
I heard about that.
Because of the lax laws down here, and you used to be able to go to one doctor, get 200 plus pills from one doctor, turn around, get back in the car, go see another doctor, get another 200 pills, and nothing was connected. The pharmacies weren't connected, the doctors weren't connected, so people were doing that for a long time. And then one day, after a lot of people who were taking them for legitimate pain, for legitimate reasons, they heavily regulated all of that. And so now you have this void, and just opiates by nature, you build up a dependency on them, and you build up a tolerance to them. So if you took two, and then now two's not working, you're taking three, and then so on. It compiles, and then basically when they removed all of that and they cut a lot of people off, well, the next thing is heroin.
Wow.
And also, if you had an addiction of buying them off the street, like the pills off the street, and you use that as kind of your justification that, oh, I'm not doing heroin, I'm just doing a pill, and I know what's in it, I can do this. And then when those pills started at $5 a piece, and today they're $30 a piece.
Really?
Yeah. And so heroin's cheaper. Heroin's cheaper than pharmaceuticals. And more potent.
I thought pills were a little. I didn't figure they were cheap now, but the price, $30. That's a lot. That's a lot. I guess it depends on what state you're in and how many milligrams or whatnot. Now those pills you can get them on the street. So I hear.
Yeah. It's the pills though. Honestly, if I had to say one thing of what caused all this, because heroin's always been bad in the Northeast and through the Midwest, but the states now are seeing it. They have never had a problem with it, and you're talking people in Kansas or just out there in the Midwest, like states you never would have thought would have had a heroin problem. The heroin's getting there, and it's killing people because they're cutting it with all kinds of crazy stuff now.
Like what?
They cut it with fentanyl, which is around, I believe, 100 times more powerful than morphine.
Wow.
And it's cheap. People can order it from different Chinese manufacturers, and they put it into the heroin, and it makes it more potent. But it's like playing Russian roulette because they're not cutting it properly. They're not pharmacists, or they're not, so they're just putting this batch, this concoction together, and people are taking it and dying in there. Now you have elephant tranquilizer in there.
Elephant tranquilizer.
It's carfentanil, and that's, I believe, 100 times more powerful than the fentanyl. So
something that has the power to tranquilize an elephant. You got human beings using that. That's crazy.
Yeah, not knowingly a lot of the time. Not knowingly. This is what the dealers are putting into it to try to make themselves have the best heroin in town.
Now I'm going to ask a gritty question. How can you tell if you're a veteran, user? How can you tell, except for death? How can you tell that they've, put something in it that you don't want to mess with anymore? What effects does it have on your body where you say, hey, this didn't happen the last time I got high?
I guess it would be, in my experience, when I'm using different different types of heroin, different batches of heroin, whatever you want to call it. It's the fentanyl and all that stuff. It hits you immediately. It literally, as soon as you do it, whether if you use IV, you use it and it just hits you full force immediately right
You
away.
said
And that's
IB?
what, yeah, like a needle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you said IV. I thought you said IB. You said I, the letter V. Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Yes, yes. So you're using it in a needle now, and you have this drug inside of your heroin that's 100 times more powerful than morphine, and it literally just hits you all at one time, and that's why people are dying, because they're taking this and they're used to doing, let's say, their regular heroin that's not hasn't been cut with anything crazy like that, and then they get a batch of something that has fentanyl in it.
Is there a way
And
they
so
can tell before they use it? I mean, does the coloration change, or can they taste it on the tip of their tongue to see if something else is? What's a way they can, possibly?
From what I've noticed, the fentanyl laced heroin, it's sweeter. Heroin by nature is very bitter, and when you taste it, there's a little bit on the tip of your tongue. Usually, if it's sweet, in my experience, that would be the. And again, I'm just, my experience comes from me using it. I'm not in any. I don't want to give anybody the wrong information and then have them end up using a batch of fentanyl heroin. It's just very bad. I just lost a friend 4 days ago who had 3 years clean off of some fentanyl heroin. She went back home to Baltimore, and she's not with us anymore.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. You say that was off of the fentanyl, which you said was the normal thing for them to put in it, but she still passed.
Yeah, and they put anything in it now. Anything that would make it seem as though it was more potent, because unfortunately it's sick. And I used to think like this too. If somebody over this block had whatever kind of heroin, whatever you want to call it, and I know, two people overdosed on that stuff.
Yeah, that makes people want to use it. That makes other people want to use it.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going to get it, because now I know that it's more powerful.
Wow. That's really crazy. Whenever you see a star, they say this person OD'd on heroin, and they'll even, and don't let them say the kind of heroin or the name of it or whatever. Everybody wants that.
Yep. It's insane.
So what causes some people to die and some people not to die?
I would say the dosage that they do, the tolerance that they have, and maybe they were taking other things. If they're taking Xanax, for example, and you're taking any kind of benzodiazepine like Klonopin or Ativan or Valium, anything that brings you down already by nature, and then you do heroin on top of it, it's very, very easy to overdose and just your breathing to stop, because you're already down from the other pills.
So you get in trouble by mixing different things together.
Absolutely. That's a surefire way to, if not at least overdose, you may die.
Wow. So what does it do? It lowers your blood pressure so much, or it just stops you from breathing?
It lowers your heart rate. It suppresses your breathing, and then you're nodding off. You see people, like we were talking about, they nod off. Well, when they're nodding off, I guess they nod off so deep, their heart starts slowing down, their breathing starts slowing down, and I've seen people turn blue. And
really?
Yeah, like just very restricted breathing. They cannot. They have a very hard time breathing.
I've seen people nod on their feet. It's
Yeah,
like a acrobat or something like that. They nod, and they get so close to the ground, you think they're going to tip over, and then up
but
they
they never do.
pop back up.
They,
I don't know what.
they never do.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I don't know how. I guess it gives you superhuman, ability or whatever to lean. It's really now I can tell someone's using heroin when I see them do all of that, but there are many different, I guess, schools of thought on how you can pinpoint, somebody being on heroin.
Absolutely, and the way that I would say is just touching on that again. If you're worried about a family member, about a loved one, about anybody that they might be using, it's it's usually if you have a suspicion and it's been going on for a long time, more times than not, you're probably right. If something hasn't seemed right for a long time, money's missing, and they're missing, it's maybe not heroin, but it could be cocaine. It could be something's not right. They may be using something.
A lot of people now with heroin, it can put you out of action, as far as working and keeping jobs and whatnot. But one drug that is very popular and almost seems universal now is powder cocaine. A lot of people are on it, and it seems as though it's made a comeback itself. I mean, does cocaine enable somebody to work harder, or why are there so many functional cocaine addicts?
People think, and myself included, people think, and especially I'm down here near Miami, so cocaine is very big down here. It always has been, and a lot of people they think that that makes them work harder, and it may in the short term when they first start using the drug, it may help them. It definitely keeps you awake. You're gonna stay up, but what
Hmm.
happens after a while when you start using cocaine, it's you always want more. You want more. No matter if you just did a line or you just smoked some coke or whatever it is, you want more. You want more. You want more. And then it gets you to the point where you've been using it for so long, you're barely sleeping, if sleeping at all. You start to have what's called cocaine psychosis, and it's kind of like meth psychosis, where you're almost hallucinating from the lack of sleep, the lack of food, and I've seen people just completely snap and end up in an institution somewhere like a psych ward
Really?
from cocaine psychosis, and those are the ones who are lucky.
And those are the ones who are lucky. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Get in somewhere and have them straighten you out, or even jail. Jail for a long time was my treatment center because I didn't have any means of getting better. So you're homeless, you're not eating, you're stealing, you're just harming people, and so now the police officers that I used to cuss out for the longest time, I have a newfound respect for them in the ways of just some of them, most of them. Now, there's always going to be some that are just real bad people.
Really?
But for the most part, they're there. They've actually saved my life before. So it's kind of like mixed feelings about that.
Tell us about that. They saved your life. How did they or he or she do that?
I've overdosed before and had the police end up getting the paramedics there saving my life. Um, just been running so hard on the streets, just going, and using every day that just the act of them locking me up for a petty theft and putting me in jail for a while so I can have some time to balance out a little bit. That's saving my life.
You couldn't get
You know,
heroin in jail?
no, it's not an easy thing to do, and if you are able to, it's very expensive. Very
Mm-hmm.
expensive.
Mm. Some people got to do what they got to do, as they say.
Yeah, Yeah, I haven't used in jail, but that's just because it's not not ethical to have any kind of a drug habit when you're in jail.
It's not ethical.
Well, no, it's not practical.
No, yeah.
The cost associated with it. Something that may cost $10 on the street could go for $100+ in jail.
Wow. Wow. But people do it. How do people, get a hold of that kind of money in jail? Because as we know, people do it.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways people may have somebody on the outside who, like a grandma or a mom or just a girlfriend or somebody that they can manipulate into thinking that they're paying for protection or whatever it is and have them actually deposit money on another inmate's account for their
Mm.
commissary.
Wow.
And then
That's
when you leave the jail, they anything you have left on your balance for commissary, they give you in a check.
oh, really?
Yeah.
What's a way now? Let's say that somebody is up on all of this, and one of their loved ones, you know, finds themselves going down this path. Say you're somebody's loved one and you know what they're doing. Would you say that they should confront the person, or would that just push the person away if you said, hey, I know what you're doing and this needs to stop here?
This comes up a lot, also in just people around me, but also at work. A lot of times I'll have family members calling in for an individual who they know that needs to get help and is refusing it. There's a couple of ways that I recommend going about it, and if you're the parents of an addict and you've been enabling them, and by enabling I mean giving them a place to stay or buying them food or paying for gas, paying for their car, whatever it is, any type of financial support that you're giving them, to what it does, you may think that you're doing good, as my mother thought she was doing for me for a very long time, but really what you're doing is keeping that individual from hitting their bottom, because now it's not like, okay, I'm using heroin, I'm using cocaine, and I have no money, but at least I have a place to sleep. At least I have food in my stomach. There's always the justification that life's not that unmanageable. If only I could have more money, I would be okay. And I used to think that for a long time. And then it came to a point, maybe 5-6 years ago, that all of my family cut any sort of ties with me, and that was it.
How did you deal with that? Were you, in a mental state where you said, well, they're not for me and I'm, good to be, did you respond in anger, or what did it feel like when, they all cut you loose? Were you angry or were you depressed?
I tried to get angry. I tried, well, a little bit of both. It was kind of like all over the place. And I would get angry with them. I would make them try to make them feel like crap, like you playing on their emotions and telling them, oh, well, you don't really care about me, and saying anything that I could to try to hurt them because I was scared. And that's another thing that a lot of families deal with is the person that they're trying to help, whether it's their son or whatever it is. When they get to that point and they try to cut them off, they can't, because they've been taking care of them for so long. And I see it a lot with mothers, my mother included, that they can't do that, because then they think that they're doing something wrong, when really they're just keeping them prolonged in their sickness. The best thing that I could say to do, as hard as it would be for some moms to do or some dads to do, if your child is using heroin or using any kind of narcotic or any drugs, and they're relying on you for support in any way, whether it's a house or whatever it is, you have to cut that off. You have to, because it's just going to prolong it, and it's just not good. It's not good.
What about some people's thinking, people who are have a family member, especially a child, who's, found him or herself in addiction, the parent says, well, if they don't get it from me, they're going to have to go out in the street and, either sell them their bodies or steal. What about family members that, feel that they're protecting them from, going out into the streets and getting into more trouble?
They're not. They're not. What they're doing, most likely, if they're either saying that they're doing, if they would do that, they might already be. Because there's just, unless you're a millionaire, and there's just not enough money, no matter what it is. So again, maybe that, and as hard as it is to fathom for some parents, that maybe that's what they need to do to save their life.
Mm.
And it's a rough road, but at the same time, at least at least they're not dead. You have, say if you have family that's paying for your drugs or helping you, like you said, either they're going to get it from you or they're going to go out and do crazy stuff for it. What happens is one day they go out and get the stuff and they get a bad batch and they die in your house.
Mm. Wow.
You have to look at it like that. It's a very serious thing. It is a disease, I think. A lot of people think the same way, but it's a very deceptive disease in the fact that it wants you dead, but it makes you think that you're happy while you're killing yourself.
A lot of women do go on to do bad things for the drug. Men do bad things too, but one thing you see with a lot of women, no matter what background they come from, they end up selling their bodies. Would you say is inevitable for a woman who has a habit as it gets worse to sell her body?
I wouldn't say that it's inevitable, but I would say that it's pretty likely. It's pretty likely. Whenever they hit that point, and hopefully, and like I tell people this all the time, the bottom, like everybody says, you have to hit rock bottom until you can get better, and you hear that a lot. Well, I tell people this. I tell people that the bottom is where you stop digging. You don't have to. You don't have to hit those bottoms. Some people, their bottom might be having their car repossessed, where someone else's bottom might be, like you said, living on the streets and prostituting. Everybody's bottom's different, so I wouldn't say it's inevitable. I would say it definitely happens a lot with females and with males. I've known males that have done that.
Mm. Straight men who ended up finding
Yeah, straight
themselves
men. Yep.
doing non heterosexual acts for the.
Yep. Yep.
How did he, put that together in his mind? Did he feel that he was still heterosexual even though he was doing things with other men for his habit?
I think that those individuals, I don't know I don't know what the thought process is there because it's just not something that I've ever really considered. But I think that what it is they've just run out of resources, they've run out of any kind of a scheme, any kind of a hustle, anything like that to maintain their drugs, and they, maybe that's their only option. That's the only thing they can think of that would make them the money that they need to maintain their drug habit.
Would you say that in the mind of an addict, when we talk about, because a big part of this is money, 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 would you say that in a sense an addict develops new chambers in his brain as far as figuring out how to get his hands on money? His through his brain, he has new windows that open up. I can sell this. I can do that. Maybe I can put two
Oh,
and two
absolutely.
together.
You're constantly living. You're constantly living in a scheme. Like what's the next scheme? What's the next move? What's the next move? So I go out and I make money and I buy my drugs and now I'm sitting with enough to get me through the day. I'm already thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about like relaxing and going out and eating. I'm thinking about, all right, well, what's next? And it's constantly on to the next and on to the next. And it's just whatever that is. If it's the feeling, if it's the selling drugs or whatever it is, it's never enough.
Now that mindset, say that you have that mindset on thinking about tomorrow and I got to get more, I got to get more. Say that you get past your habit, and you keep that same mindset. Do you think it could turn into a positive and give somebody ambition if they get off the drug, but they still have that creative mindset to acquiring money and making moves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell people that if they put 20, 30% of what they put into the different ways that they got money on a day to day to use drugs, that they would be rich.
That's the kind of mode of thinking I was. There was a woman who used to sell her body and use crack, and I forgot the amount of money she said she made a day, but it always stuck with me that she said if you used to be addicted to crack, you should never, and you get off of it, you should never be broke again in your life. And it,
You're
yeah, that,
right. You're right.
and
She's
she,
absolutely right.
and this is a woman who owned about three different businesses and was doing all right. And I never forgot that.
My aunt told me that a very long time ago. She's the one who told me that if you put 20% of what you're putting into getting high every day, you'll be rich.
Wow.
And to me, life, just my perspective on life, I don't need to be rich. I don't want to be rich. Obviously, if somebody handed me $1 million, I would take it, but I don't let that be. I don't let the pursuit of money take me away from what life is really about. And yes, you need enough money to live happily, but at the same time, you want to have family, you want to have friends, you want to have relationships with people around you who you can enjoy your time with. And so I know people that are very well off, but they're miserable. They're miserable because they're alone. Their money is their money determines their worth. If they don't have a lot of money, then they failed. If they have money, then they're worrying about how to maintain that money and get more money. And if money is the focus in life, just in my opinion, then you're missing out on a big portion of life.
Wow. Money does make it, make the bitter taste of life go down a little easier sometimes, but
Yes, it does.
yeah, it's true that maybe it shouldn't be everything. It's some of the thing, but it's not. I guess it shouldn't be everything. What as we get ready to close, what is a way that something that probably a parent can do to ensure that their child doesn't go down this path? Should the parent get up on, all the drugs and be able to tell the signs, or what's a way that a parent can keep their child from going in this direction?
That's a really, really good question, and I have mixed feelings about that. I have an 11-year-old daughter who I was not always there for, who I'm there for now, and she's showing some signs of like acting like I did at her age, and that's one of my biggest fears is her ever having to experience that life. And it's a tough question to answer because I'm dealing with it right now. She hasn't used anything yet, God forbid, but I've met parents. I've had friends who had parents and who are very like you said, they're looking for the signs, they're looking for this, they're looking for that, but they're constantly accusing their child of doing something out of the fear that they are or that they will. And sometimes what I've seen is that it's almost like when you are in a relationship with somebody and you're constantly accusing that person of cheating on you and they're not, but you're constantly acting like, where are you at, what are you doing, and all that, and then it comes true.
Wow.
So It's tough. It's just the thing I would say is that if they are using, make sure that you do not let them talk you into keeping that going, keeping them in the house, keeping them. You have to put your foot down and tell them that either they get the help or they can't live there. And if
Should you
they
put
choose
them
to
in
leave,
rehab? I mean, if they're, minors or something, should you put them in a rehab program?
yes, you could do that. But also, even adults, depending on the different states, most states in the United States have ways that you can court order somebody who's a harm to themselves to go into treatment, and they basically court order them to either 60 days in treatment, and if they don't want to do that, then they have to do 6 months in jail. And most of the time, nobody's going to choose to go to jail over going to treatment.
I know that if you have Medicaid in Missouri, you're able to go to treatment for, I don't know if it's 30 days or 60 days, but in Missouri, at least now, Medicaid, as I understand it, will pay for you to go into some kind of treatment.
Yeah, there's definitely facilities all over the U.S. that will work with the Medicaid coverage, and that will, because it was hard for a very long time, especially doing what I do. I really have a hard time sometimes when I'm speaking to somebody who really desperately needs the help, and they're limited on the coverage. And then the flip to that is that when I talk to somebody who couldn't care any less than they do about getting the help, but they have insurance that will cover them to go into, a luxury rehab facility where they have
A
somebody making their
rehab with
bed
better
and
food.
chefs cooking them. Yeah, yeah, exactly. With
It
chefs
comes
cooking their
down
meal.
to the food. If you go to something that's you don't have to pay for, the food may be questionable, so I hear. But if you go to these places that are like retreats, the food is, substantially, it improves substantially.
Oh, absolutely. They have chefs cooking. They have chefs cooking for you in the private facilities.
But
And I've
some
done
people
both.
still
I've
don't.
done both.
Some people still aren't. I don't understand. Some people still aren't successful when they go to these retreat facilities and have all the best and have counselors, that are kind of renowned, and people still flunk out of those.
Well, the thing is, you only get, and I have parents ask me this all the time, who are sending their children to private facilities, what's the success rate? And I tell them that you can't, there are facilities that try to boast an 80% success rate or whatever that is, and I tell them that it's just there's no success rate on it. It depends on how willing they are to listen to what's being put in front of them and the help that they're getting. If they're going in to a treatment facility and they're looking for a vacation and just to relax and a break from the drugs with no intention of really stopping, then there's nothing that anybody can say to anybody that is going to make them stop. There has to be something that comes from within. So I've seen a lot of people go to the state-funded facilities that are almost like the Department of Corrections. And
Yes, they
they get
actually
better.
call it that.
Yeah,
They
they
actually
get
call it
better.
that. In the same food, that they serve in the jails, it seems that they serve it at these facilities.
Yeah. And the way I look at that is, at least you have something that you're eating. Because
Yeah.
I've been down and out, and I've gone into those state-funded facilities. Yeah, they're not pampering you and they're not taking care of you, but when you're done, you're done. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. When you're done, you're done. And if some place can offer you a break from the street and a break from the drugs and some therapy, you take advantage of whatever it is that they give you. And then the big thing is, no matter where you go, private or state or wherever it is, it's what you do after that really
Yes.
counts. Anybody can stay clean in a treatment facility, and a lot of people do. Most of the people do that go into any treatment facility. It's about what you do day one when you get out. If you go hang out with all of your friends, they were doing the same thing you were doing when you got in there, then you're pretty much setting yourself up to fail.
New people, places, or things. But what about people who can't afford to go to a better community? I mean, when they're released, they have to go back into that same environment because they can't afford somewhere else. What about those people? How do they make it?
What they can do, they can go, and this is something that I had to do is go to one of the anonymous fellowships, the 12-step meeting. You're going to be around people that are like-minded, but who, and only put yourself towards the people who you see just are doing it. They're not talking about it. They're living by example. They're leading by example. They're 2, 3, 4, 5 years off of everything, successful. Their bills are paid. They're driving a car that they paid for, and they had tags and everything else. And I know that, but there's people that are doing the right thing. You build up a fellowship of people like that, and they when you're not around, they're calling you, wondering where you're at.
Okay.
And that's what I had to do, because I got sober where I did a lot of using. I've done a lot of using all around in Florida or in Baltimore and pretty much the whole East Coast. But the majority of that was done in the county that I got sober in Florida. And it is possible. I drive around all day and I see people that I used to associate with. I've seen people that are still on the street corner just doing the same thing as they were doing, 2+ years ago.
Do you
And
try to
they're not
help
getting
them
any
or do
better.
you just stay away? Do you try to help
I give
them
them,
or?
I give them money. I do. I know a lot of people say don't give them money, but when you're at that point, $5, $10 to somebody, I've been in that situation when you have nothing anymore, and that $5 or $10, it at least takes you away from being miserable for however long. And so I do that. I try not to do that a lot because you never know when they're going to go take, that $10, $20 I give to somebody. They may go and get a batch of bad dope and then end up doing it and not be here anymore.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. Well,
But I
this
do
is
volunteer. I do volunteer at the church that helped out a lot. Not as much as I should be right now, but I've at least been dropping off clothes there and everything else. But I want to start going back to that church that used to serve me food and try to help out where I can.
it's nice for, when somebody or some people met you at your worst. It's sometimes nice for them to meet you as the person who you were meant to be. Sometimes that's
Absolutely.
nice.
Just because someone's homeless, someone's not doing the right thing, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. They just went down a bad path, and they can always, as long as they're taking a breath, they can always turn that around. Doesn't matter how old you are, where you came from, where you're at. You can always. It's never too late. It's never too late to turn around.
So, if I might ask, some people who used to use drugs and no longer use them, they say that once an addict, always an addict, and they say that they're a recovering addict, even though they hadn't used in a good 10, 15 years. They say, well, I'm a recovering addict. What moniker do you give yourself? Do you say that you're healed? Or do you say that you're a recovering addict? Or do you say that you are an addict? How do you refer to yourself?
I would identify myself as a recovered alcoholic, recovered addict.
Okay. All right. That sounds fantastic. People have different ways of referring, to themselves, and I'm totally grateful that you made it through. You made it through that darkness to the light. And if one person is helped, that'll be fantastic. That would
Absolutely, and that's what this is all about today. I don't live in any embarrassment or any shame from my using, because there was obviously a purpose for it. God obviously wanted me to experience that for whatever the reason was. I don't even need to know the reason. I just know that what I can do from today is use my experience to try to stop somebody from going down that path or to get them back from that path.
well, we really Appreciate you. And could you tell us who you work with again?
Absolutely. I work with Better Addiction Care, okay, and we handle admissions for about 20 different private facilities in the U.S. We have we have resources available for individuals who don't have insurance. I can direct you towards local state facilities in your area, and if any family that needs help or anything like that, you can always give me a call. I have a direct line. It is 800-212-3638. Another good resource to have. It's a nationwide directory of both inpatient and outpatient treatment facilities in your area. That number is 1-800-662-4357. They also have a website. It is www.s as in Sam, A, M as in Michael, H as in Henry, S as in Sam, A as in Apple.gov. And they're directories. They will give you all of the locations in the whole country, but you can break it down to your local area of facilities that are right near you that you can get into. I used to think for the longest time that because I didn't have insurance and I didn't have money that there was no help for me. And granted, it may be a little bit harder, but if I can do it, I know that anyone can do it.
Well, that's fantastic. And as I said, we're privileged to be listening to someone who has gone through the darkness and come out the other side. And do you have an email address as well that people could email you if they were not so inclined to call?
Yeah, absolutely. You can email me at my first name, Bradley, Bradley. Last initial, the letter Y again, so Bradley Y at betteraddictioncare.com.
Okay. Well, there we are. There we are. Very revealing and very honest talk. Hit a number of different points. I would advise, anyone who has a child or someone they love dearly who may be at risk to listen closely and, possibly, um, give this program, to someone who they care about or share it with someone they care about. And, sir, we're so happy to have you, and we're going to be in touch.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me.